just to be the representative for Swift Current, and I thought either provincial or federal, but literally since we first started studying government in school, so what, grade 6 or something like that. I remember going to Disneyland and the rides were awesome, but there was something called Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which is still there today. That's animatronic Abe. That was at the World's Fair in some 19-tickety-2, and it was fantastic. And I thought the speech was brilliant. So I began to study a lot about Abraham Lincoln, and then got really interested in our own political history, John A., and politics. I think I've told you folks that I came home one day, and my dad, who really never, even though I gave him a lot of cause, never really raised his voice much. But he was animated while watching the news about something, and I asked him what he was upset about. And he said, well, the answer was one word: Trudeau. It was, of course, the senior, and he was upset at something the government had done. So that made me want to know more what could possibly get my dad upset. Because like I said, he still is. He doesn't get upset very much, even though we've all given him lots of cause.
Some people go the other way from their parents politically. How much did your dad and his views shape where you went?
Probably quite a bit, because I saw them, it was really, I would call it sort of a small business perspective. My dad and his brother Frank had a couple of employees, and for most of their lives, they had a furniture moving business, hard work. Dad was in the office a lot, and Uncle Frank would do the moving, but they would all do that, and he'd be gone on the weekends and gone at summertime, but I could tell that he enjoyed being self-employed, and he would just explain to me what makes it easier for him to be self-employed in a small business and what makes it harder from a government perspective. And he was partisan at the time, I would say, but not overly so. His bias was more towards, things that would help people like him, stay in business and maybe create jobs for others. And that sounds like something more than a grade 8 or 9 would think about, and it is, because my dad had a way of explaining it in a great way that resonated with me at a young age.
Rather than following in his footsteps and being an entrepreneur, what was it about the political life that appealed to you at such a young age?
Well, I did that. I did a bit of small business work when I was at the city. We had a seasonal tourism business, but you're right, not in the way my dad was, or even my mom. But I just thought a lot of the people that I would read about, from JF, some Americans, Lincoln, Kennedy, the great debates of Confederation, MacDonald, nothing really provincial per se, maybe a bit of Diefenbaker. I noted a couple things. One, all of those folks were lawyers, so that was I thought I would go to law school, but not because I wanted to practice law, but because I thought, well, that's the best way to get into politics. And I always thought, I loved Swift Current, from an early age, and even at university, I thought, boy, if I could get back there, it's a great place to raise a family, and so then would there be an opportunity to be the representative for Swift Current or Cypress Hills Grasslands if it was federal. And for Swift Current it was, and I was quite convinced that based on how the government ended in early 90s, the PC government, that there was probably not that chance. And neither was I going to be that interested. I wasn't really interested. That's the only period of my life for about 5, 6, 7 years where I really wasn't interested in politics. I would be interested in what my friend Reg had to say, and just because he was one of my best friends, and super smart guy, but I wasn't really interested in politics till the party was formed, the new party. And then I thought, this party might have a chance in Swift Current, and got interested after that. And so all of those dreams were sort of reanimated again.
How did it feel walking out of there today?
I bowed. All the commissioners were there. I wanted to bow for a last time, and it's kind of sad. I really like that place. Not I hope in unhealthy ways whereas I think Rex Murphy described Joey Smallwood being dragged out of the Newfoundland legislature and leaving his claw marks on the desk. Not in that kind of a way. Should we love it? But it's an amazing room, and some of the best memories of my life were made there, and it really is an honor to hear the speaker say, I recognize the member for Swift Current, or I recognize the Premier, and it's an honor. I was saying we went down with a delegation of 2, me and another person, to the Western Governors meeting, and I said to him afterwards, I said, what I'll miss from this job a lot is looking down and seeing the card. All the governors have their name cards out, and mine says obviously Brad Wall, Premier of Saskatchewan, and not because of the title, but because I get to represent the province I love. That's been the highlight of this job, to do that outside and inside the province. And when you're in the legislature, you're reminded of it every day. Whenever the speaker calls on you, you're reminded that you have this honor. I'll miss that.
Are you
I
gonna
got a real
miss
kick out of the grade 4 girl who sent you that
Yeah,
card.
Emily's. Yeah,
And it's
Emily
okay
Simpson.
to be
Yeah.
stressed.
Yeah, it looks like you were stressed.
It looks like you are
Yeah,
stressed.
yeah.
Is the stress gone? Do you feel some relief today?
It'll be gone shortly. As soon as there's no more scrums. No, in all seriousness, man, yeah, I do. I feel some of that because it's a 24/7 proposition. It's the way politics is today. No one should complain about it. That's why we all got into it, knowing that fact. But then, if you're doing it for a long period of time, and maybe as in this job for 10 of those 18 years, yeah, there's a certain amount of stress that will go away. That might be more prevalent when you're saying in question
What
period.
else will you get back? You said at the end, having fought so hard to lose your given name and become
Yeah.
the member for Swift Current, you're now willing and anxious to make
Yeah.
the trade back. What will you gain back?
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Well, just my family, just when you have as great an honor as it has been, when you have that title, when you're known by an office, you're by definition sharing the other part. And think about it from Tammy's perspective. I do. She shared so much so that of her life and sacrificed a lot so I could do this. So if I don't have to share my name or my identity with any official office or title, I have more time to give back and to them and to my family. And by the way, that's not a chore. That'll be fun. I look forward to that.
What do you most look forward to?
Tammy and I think, she's working, she's an engineer with the city of Swift Current, but I'm hoping we get to a point relatively soon where we could travel a bit more. We travel really well together, and we enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I still have to get a job and work too, so it'll all have to fit in with that. And I'm looking forward to, our kids are young adults, and so they're exploring different things, and to the extent they're interested in us being in their lives at all, we're going to be. I've already offered to be a roadie for Coulter. He hasn't really responded.
What's next for you on the job front?
I don't know that yet, and it's been a strange situation, David, because not strange, it's normal. These months intervening between the announcement and the January 27th when the new leader is chosen, I really can't. People have come forward and said, hey, would you be interested in this sort of thing or that sort of thing? And I can't engage because everything's a conflict or a potential conflict. So it's something that I have some ideas that I don't want to share just yet of things that I'd like to do if ever given the opportunity, of not being presumptuous, but I don't have any, there's nothing in
What
particular.
kinds of things?
Oh, I just said I didn't want to answer that, but you've never really,
Never really.
no, never really.
What kinds of things?
I think I'm interested in, I don't really want to do politics, and yet public policy still interests me. I've had a former premier call and say, hey, I think there's some important focus that we could put on certain aspects of healthcare sustainability in the country. And he said, if I could find a couple of other former premiers, hopefully representing different stripes, would you be interested? And I said, yeah, I'd be interested in that, where it's not politics, but maybe public policy issues that are of interest to me. I think that I would like to, if it was something completely different, I'd be interested in that. I have found the industry side of music to be interesting. Coulter's going to hate to hear this, and I'm not going to be inserting myself in anyone's life, but that whole part of that, I've just found it to be fascinating. I've tried to learn as much as I could, so I don't think there's any prospects there. But what I'm saying is that I'd be open to something completely different.
Any plans to even just take a few months off before entering the work?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure
I think
it's
it's
a question of a gap in your resume at this point.
It's a good question, and I think it's healthy, actually. I think it is healthy for not to move on to anything too quickly, and I want to, if I can afford to, I'll take a bit of a break for a while.
What
you
was
have
the
any-
biggest thing you didn't accomplish in this job? Because I did take great note of all the accomplishments that you made, and I think most of us know them. But what have you not accomplished? that you really wanted?
For a while, we had the operating debt down 44%. Now it's, and it was close to $3 billion paid off, I think. Now it's $1 billion because we've gotten into deficits. So I would like to have left the balance sheet better. I still think it's strong. We have a AAA credit rating and a low debt to, but I wish it was stronger because honestly, that gives the next government and then the next one after that, whatever its stripe, the ability to do things. The fact that Romano made the decisions he made gave Mr. Calvert at least the choice to do things, and me and our government the opportunity or the choice to do things. And so it sounds like a stuck record. Oh, really? You're going to talk about the budget? Well, if we if we leave things in strong financial, in a strong financial state, then the next folks have more room to maybe do something more on disabilities or, you name it, healthcare, education, There's some funding decisions there that I think will be revisited soon, as soon as the province can afford it.
How
Do you
about
have
your
any-
relationship, not your relationship, our relationship with Indigenous people in this province and the full participation of Indigenous people in graduation rates in the economy?
There's only been very modest progress in some of those areas, and so that should be a constant effort, and to the extent we're not making progress, then I regret, I guess. For a while there, we had a major labor shortage in Saskatchewan. I mean, I would talk about this with you and others. We had an unemployment rate amongst First Nations and Aboriginal people that was many-fold greater than it was the overall number that included everyone, and yet we had a labor shortage. And I think you'll remember me saying, I mean, we are going to go to Ireland and in Toronto on job fairs and try to recruit people here. But boy, that seems there's something that's strange about that, or wrong about it, maybe even given the fact that so many are not employed here now. So that's why we tried that's why, it was our government that increased the funding to SIIT. I think that's one of the Aboriginal educational institutions that has a better record than most in terms of connecting graduates with employment. So we increased their funding 93%, a significant amount. And it's also why we did the joint job task force with the FSIN. And there was a number of good projects that came from that the Minister of Education recounted in the House again today. Tell them for me, and Find My Voice, and some initiatives that are seeing some improvement in completion rates. But we're going to have to deal with this issue, and I think it's going to continue to be there needs to be generosity and on both sides of the equation for reconciliation to happen.
And
Do
where does
you
the
regret
60 scoop
anything?
apology
Just-
fall into that?
What?
Oh, where does the lack of the 60 scoop apology fall into that?
Well,
as
we're ready to apologize. I fundamentally do not believe that for apology to be sincere and genuine, that it has to come with money. And so that's not to say that some of the things that Chief Cameron has said that he would like to see funded aren't good things, and the government should fund them if it has room. But I don't think it should be conditional on accepting an apology. I think the government should be earnest in pursuing some of that, and so we're ready to make it. I mean, we're ready to make it at the time of the choosing of the Métis Nation or FSN.
Did you have a moment of regret from when you made your decision to today? Have you had a moment? And if
that's
not,
a great
why not?
question. I really have not. And I have not a moment of regret. There's things where I have realized I'll miss some certain things more than I thought I might miss them, including the House. That really hit me this week. That yesterday was my last vote. That's quite a thing. To be able to be, that's actually when we're called by our name. It's strange when we get our identity back, but only for the purposes of a vote, and then we're back to losing our identity. That was my last time yesterday, and so it was strange. I didn't think I'd be that nostalgic, but I am, and I don't know why. To answer to your last part of your question, I don't know why I haven't had any regrets, except to say that I guess it was the right decision. Today in the Legislative Assembly, I heard my very good friend Greg Burkich speak Latin. It's clearly time for me to retire. I have seen everything.
And maybe go back to Disneyland
Yeah.
again?
Yes.
There's way more things you can do than
go to
Nathan
Mr. Lincoln
can.
because he's better now.
Really?
He's not so clicky. It's good.
You're gonna miss the scrum?
Yeah, very much. Oh, no, not the scrums, the people in the scrum.
Nicely done.